All right, we are back, CITIUS MAG, live from Eugene, day 9, and I'm joined by a freshly minted U.S. Olympian, Courtney Wayment, and Coach Diljeet Taylor in the house. An amazing race, probably one of the most thrilling races of this entire trials. You've had a couple days to process it. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy. I'm excited. It was a fun race, and it's a dream come true. And it may hopefully it's not, but it may only ever be a once in a lifetime thing. So just trying to soak it all in. And
I don't think it's gonna be a once in a lifetime thing. I think there's more to come for sure. Coach, we saw the video of you mic'd up during the race. Has your heart rate come down since then?
Yeah, it was elevated till the very, very end of the race, which was probably not our prediction of how it was going to play out. But yeah, a little bit of relief and a lot of excitement.
Can you describe sort of like the stakes, right? Everyone, you've been to enough of these. This is different from an NCAA championship, different from a U.S. championship. Everyone's careers, contracts, whatever it might be, really ramps up for like the U.S. Olympic trials. And I love just sort of like all the mental health work that you do with your athletes to get them prepared for a stage like this. It doesn't begin when you land in Eugene. This is like months and months, years sometimes, like in the works, I guess. How do you start to kind of get your athletes ready for the trials?
Well, this year was a little bit different with an actual Olympic spot on the line. We had a little bit of practice last round where Courtney finished 4th, but that was like kind of a far-fetched dream. And this one being, she's made 2 world finals, and so the expectation was we want to chase this and just put her on the line in a way to be able to compete. And physically, I think things went really smooth. It's probably the best build she's had in the 8 years that I've coached her. Mentally, it probably wasn't the best build. I think there were some battles that she faced, and the race never tells the whole story. And so being someone that saw what she overcame to make this team, I think is going to make this one really special. It won't be the only one, but this one is special for just the resilience and grit that she's had to get to this place.
Yeah. So Courtney, I mean, hearing that, like, you just have like such a strong foundation, I guess, with the training partners you have, the BYU family that you kind of still surround yourself with. How reliant have you been on them, just even through some of the hardships?
yeah, I'm going to be honest. I was kind of talking to Coach Taylor about this before the race, but team or no team, I was carried to that line to get to that starting line, and I have the best support system in the entire world. I have all of the BYU people. I have, past and previous teammates and people on the team now, the women's team. I have my family. I have my training partners that I've been with for almost a decade. Coach T, I've been with a decade. So when you're surrounded by the same people who are consistently loving you and supporting you, that's not based on your performance on the track. Getting to that line, that was the win. And so I was carried by a lot of people, and I owe a lot of people a lot of thank yous. But yeah, I'm very, very lucky to have those people in my life for sure.
Obviously faster 3 years later, like we see just sort of the results on paper. How much more mature and just, confident is the Courtney Wayment on the starting line at this trials compared to the last trials?
Yeah, it's a lot different. Like Coach T said, like last one, it was like, ooh, maybe we could be a dark horse. Like maybe if all the stars align and the bubble braids are great, then you'll make that team. But so that was a lot different. But now it's like, I have more experience. I've led, since that Olympic trials, I've led every championship race in the final. And so when you have that level of faith and trust in like what she has helped me build and helped me get to that line, it's just different. And I feel like something that I've been really grateful for is we've helped, between Coach Taylor and I and, with my training partners, it's familiar. It's things that you only have as much pressure as you allow to be put on yourself. So I would say the confidence is a lot different, and hopefully as I continue to get more experience in this sport, that changes still from this moment. So it's different but good.
4th is always just like a hard position at any sort of trials, right? Because it's like one spot out. But do you remember sort of like if there's always tears, right? Like happy tears for just sort of like that bit of a surprise, or like was there a little mix of like just missing out? And then Coach, what do you remember from 2021 is like that you kind of told her immediately after that race?
Yeah, for me, There was happy tears.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, like, the only sad was going to processing. I'm just going to be transparent.
Yeah.
That was, like, not the nicest feeling in the world. It was cool, but, like, not the nicest feeling. But other than that, it was just happy tears. Like, I got 4th at Olympic trials. Like, to be 4th in anything in the U.S., like, that's pretty amazing. So, lots of just happy tears for sure.
Yeah. Coach, what'd you say to her after that last performance?
Well, I was really proud. I mean, it was, if you make the team, you're probably going to enter the professional world. And she got 4th. So I was like, all right, we get to do this for another year at the collegiate level. And at that time, I had no plans to coach pros at all. I actually said I'm never going to coach pros. And so, yeah, just kind of special how we've come full circle from that moment.
That commitment to then, sticking with some of the women that you coach, like those discussions you have, I guess, like establishing the pro group, do you take it year by year when it comes to goal setting, or is it built around sort of working backwards from the Olympic trials?
It's year by year. I think what we did 2 years ago has gotten her to believe that she could do this. As a coach, though, for me, this is a fairly new world, just as new as it is for her. And I took some of the confidence from, what we've been able to do and how they've been just elevating their performances year after year. But I was scared for Paris. Like, they know I was scared, and I was scared starting like January. It was scary. But I just bought a bunch of Paris apparel. So I had like all these Eiffel Tower outfits. I'm not joking. And every hard workout that these pros had that were key workouts, I showed up with like Paris, Eiffel Tower, Paris. Because I was like, I'm not fearing this. Like, so when I saw the Eiffel Tower at the finish line, I'm like, I've been wearing that for months. Like, it's fine. I'm not intimidated by this. But yeah, it was also just my way of saying like, hey, we're doing this thing. We're chasing it. Whatever that looks like, whatever the outcome is, we're going to chase it.
Well, with the team culture that you've built, it's the parties that I love seeing on Instagram before the race. What was the send-off before this one?
We always do, for USAs, we do a little breakfast at my house. And yeah, just as simple. There's a eyeshadow palette that they get as a gift. Because if the makeup is on point in these races. So that was the rose palette from, was it Sephora? No, Ulta. It's
Okay.
Rose palette from Ulta. And yeah, each of the women. So I had 7 women competing here, 3 pros and 4 collegiates, and they all got those little eyeshadow palettes.
Were there notes, I think, that you attached to some of your athletes?
Yeah, just do a card before every single race. So the one for USA is as, the American flag and just a picture of them and just some good words of affirmation prior to them getting on the starting line.
Courtney, has that made sort of like the transition to being a pro like a little bit easier? Sort of like this is what you had at BYU, and like this is still continuing to be a part of like your professional career and setup.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different
Okay.
things, right? Like practices look different.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that your day-to-day structure obviously looks different, and so I would say that is definitely different. However, training with the same people, we know how each other works. We know each other's strengths. We know each other's weaknesses. We're already friends, so we already have that friendship outside of that. And Coach Taylor, all these traditions, she still does them, right? Like, she talked about some of those, but like we wear red, white, and blue, and she makes the same food, and we eat the same meal on that breakfast. And so those traditions have been, I think, really key in helping us stay grounded in where we're at and having this be the thing that we get to do rather than it becoming maybe more encompassing, that it could feel like when this is your job and this is your every choice that you ever make every single day for years leading for one race,
Building up to this one, I think a lot after Emma Coburn, scratched, after Courtney Frerichs scratched, I looked on paper and I was like, all right, Courtney Wayment's the favorite to make this team. Just granted the fact that you're the only person in the field who's made the last 2 World Championship finals. What did you take away from those experiences and that championship run essentially to help benefit you here at this championship stage?
Yeah, I think in 2022 making that world final, that was just so cool. That was like icing on a cake of having that 2022 year. So getting that international experience was really good. So that's kind of how I would encapsulate that, of just gaining experience. And then last year it was like, okay, I have the experience and I want to do something, and it fell short. And that was very motivating of okay, I don't want to just be making finals. I don't want to just be making teams. I want to do something. So I think, again, experience and then falling short and not getting your goals, like that was super key in how I came back and was building for this year. So both, a lot of good came from both years, and they're different, but they led into, okay, how am I going to face this year?
Coach, I guess they were really quick to give so much credit to Emma and Courtney for really being the ones to like pave the way for the state of the U.S. women's steeplechase, and just how fast it's gotten, and how, you know, there's that assurance that if you are successful at the U.S. stage, you can also mix it up with some of the top people in the world. And it's interesting because you've been able to watch now just over the last couple of years that Courtney has etched her way sort of into that, you know, U.S. history telling of the women's steeple. Where do you sort of assess and see her place in like the whole story of the elevation of women's steeplechasing?
From a performance standpoint, I think we just continue to grind away and show up as, you know, in really good shape to continue to chip away at those times. Obviously, a sub-9 steeple at some point is the goal, and that's just the goal. But for me, it has to be bigger than that. And I hope when she leaves the steeple, so many young girls are inspired to chase a dream, whether it's in the steeple or not. That's the end goal, is regardless of what time is on that record book, because those get rewritten. Mm-hmm. But the inspiration that you leave in the sport for the next girl, that doesn't get rewritten. That just gets passed on. And so I hope the legacy is bigger than a time or a medal or a team.
At what point was it maybe in the wintertime or in January, February, was there ever a time where the two of you sat down and mapped out, okay, for the trials, if you happen to get in this shape, you're good to make the team? Like, did you ever think in terms of times? Because we look at the results, like, you told anyone 9:06, you're like, okay, that makes the team.
Well, I thought 9:08 would win, okay? And 9:08 doesn't make the team. So I'm really glad I was wrong in the shape that the win would take. King for Paris, obviously the system is written so that we're really sharp at that time. But I couldn't have predicted that. That was wild. I mean, the entire time I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's another 71, and they're all still there. So there was a little bit of panic from my point. I'm glad she stayed composed, because it's like, how are they not dropping? No one's dropping. And to close like that, but how magical was that?
Oh.
To the entire race, for everybody in the field, that was chills around the stadium to just see. They were sprinting the entire time. So yeah, I thought 9:08 that would get a good win, and we'd wind it up, and it didn't work out that way. So
Courtney, put us in your shoes. How'd you keep your cool throughout the whole entire time? Because it was fast from the get-go, and yeah, like you said, like anyone looking at the splits was like, how are they doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps that I felt very confident in what I could do. I feel like I'm very good at, like Coach T said, winding it up, and I feel very confident leading. So I think that really helped. I will be honest, as much as everyone else felt shocked, I would look at the board and I'd be like, oh my, there's still 5 people here, and there's 2 laps left. Like, I was like, I kind of wasn't planning on that. But even with a lap to go, I was like, oh, there's 4 of us and there's only 3 spots. But I really, in that moment, I was like, oh, Coach T prepped me for that. And so it was just kind of just relying on everything that I've done, that I was like, oh, I'm ready for this situation, even though maybe it looked different than what I thought it was going to with 400 to go. But just preparation from Coach T, to be honest. I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I know I'm ready to go here, and I know that I'm ready to be fatigued but finish hard.
So you never saw a split that like freaked you out?
No, not really. I mean, did I really hear splits or see splits? Not really, but I knew I was moving. But at that point, it wasn't even about the splits. It was like, I got to try to run away if I can.
So if we saw the full 9-minute version of you being mic'd up, like, was there anything that got pulled or left on the editing floor that was maybe you just freaking out a little bit more?
Yeah, there was a lot of Indian prayers in there,
Okay.
you know? Like, I was just like, Waheguru, Waheguru, it was, first of all, you forget that you're mic'd up. Like, in that moment, like, obviously they put the little magnet thing on you, and then you get into your groove and the gun goes off and you're just in coach mode. And so it was kind of interesting to look back and be like, wow, if I saw that woman on the rail yelling like that, like, it's kind of lunatic. But But yeah, there were some words that probably BYU wouldn't approve of that were asked them nicely to edit those out. It's such an intense feeling, and as a coach, that's my first Olympian. And you can't, like, NCAA championship, that's kind of the pinnacle of our sport, and I've been lucky enough to have women that have gotten those, but that feeling was completely different, and it was so many emotions in one. But most of all, like, knowing how hard she's worked and how much it meant to her. We're very intentional in conversations that we had to put her in the best place to be able to do that. And so it was there was a lot of feelings going through, but the sense of urgency that I felt, I wanted to go out there and like run the last 400. But just, she's so smooth over the barrier and so good off the water jump. So I have a lot of confidence in that part. It was really between the barriers where I was like you could hear me on the last lap. I'm like, no, like, don't let them go. But yeah, she handled it so well, and just, there was no ounce of panic in her eyes or her body at all. And I feel like I know her pretty well. It was just really calm and collected, and I think she was very confident coming off that last water jump.
Courtney, what's the most involved you've seen Coach in a practice? Sort of like when she jokes about like running with you guys, like we've seen videos where you actually do jump in sometimes, but with you, like, have you cleared a water barrier with her yet or anything?
No, Chris. I am not trying to get injured.
Yeah, you still got to supervise the other practice.
Yeah.
But what is it about Coach that makes it fun?
Well, it's a lot different than it was at BYU. In the pro world, because I'm not an NCAA athlete now, we can just have good jokes all the time. All sorts of jokes. Whatever is going to get you motivated for the day, But, no, it's fun. I mean, what you guys see on the track, with that mic'd up, like, you see how passionate she is, but we get that at practice all the time, and it's looped in with fun. And she does a really good job at making it fun, especially when things are getting really hard. She'll make funny jokes, and so it's like, oh crap, like, she really means business on this one actually. But it's just fun, and we get that passion all the time, and it's all the time for us, and I love it.
You're living in this moment where it's like you are her first like Olympian. When did sort of like this idea, I guess, like was it just until you took on pros that you felt like, okay, like I can keep this success story going into the professional ranks, or was this always sort of like a dream as a coach for you?
No, it really wasn't. I've always said I won't coach pros. Abraham Alvarado is here, made the men's 800 final, and when he got done with college, I was like, sorry, I just don't coach pros. But these three women, Anna, Whitney, and Courtney, they all finished, right around the same time. They were all three national champions for BYU. They put me on the map as a coach, right? They were kind of my checks and balances of like, yeah, we're doing this thing the right way. And I just wanted to continue to coach them, not just on the track, but also off the track, just to see what we could do together. And it's a very different coach-athlete relationship. Very different. And so I think they've all three represented me really well, and what they've done has been greater than I could have imagined coaching pros. I actually like have a bigger bug now to like be at this level. I walk on the warm-up, and there's 2 years ago I'm looking around and there's no female coaches at the World Championship. There wasn't any here when we hosted, or when Eugene hosted. And I just got a little bug of like, I want to be in that arena.
Yeah.
And it's been great. So they really sold me on it.
The people watching or listening to this who are just coaching junkies, we've had Mark Coogan on this show, and he's like actually like one of the most downloaded episodes so far this year, because people just love hearing sometimes like the coaching perspective on things. And one thing that we found super interesting about it is just sort of like the talent ID of like, he sees potential from someone in a Division II school or whatever it is, and he's willing to take a chance. What do you remember, I guess, about the first time you saw Courtney and that potential, whether it was in her eyes or in the first practice, or when did you realize that?
So I get the job at BYU in the summer of 2016. I get a roster of the women that are coming in as freshmen, and those were the first women I wanted to call and just kind of introduce myself to. And she had mentioned something about being a steepler. I had a steepler at Cal State Stanislaus that had run 10:04. I had no idea if Courtney could even steeple. But I said, hey, get a piece of paper, write 10:04, and put it on your mirror. Like, that's what we're going to do. And that's just because it was what it was known to me, that I had an athlete that had done that at the D2 level. And so I was like, we're at least going to get to that because I know I can do that. In freshman year, she runs 10:04. And yeah, we started together. And again, 8 years. I don't know many coaches that have coached an athlete through the entirety of their NCAA career and then continued it at this level. It's just special. But it wasn't, I just saw, she's got a gift. Like, she is a steepler. It's not just in the talent. There's a passion that has to come for that event because it's so gritty, and she has that. She absolutely loves that event. It is made for her. It is in her DNA, probably because her dad was also a steeplechaser. But yeah, she's meant for it, and I had no idea what the end game was going to be at all freshman year. Matter of fact, the first 3 months, I just convinced her to stop going on so many dates. That was like the first part of our cross-country season as freshman year Courtney. So can't say I predicted or saw that. What I saw was a passion for the sport and her ability to just go, okay, you think I can run 10:04? I'll go run 10:04. But yeah, we've come a long way since then. We're almost a minute past that. It's like 9:06, 10:04. Like, it's been good.
That all sounds accurate to you?
Yeah, that's like exactly what happened. Like, my very first steeple, it was just her and I. We were at a really low-key meet at USC. There was 2 other women in the race, and she pretty much just bounced between she just ran a square while I ran in an oval.
Yeah.
And, like, we would talk. Like, I was like, what lap am I on? Like, it's just, I don't know. There was just immediate, like, belief from her, and I feel like a lot of trust from me. And I don't know, yeah. But it's all very accurate.
There's like that line, I think, in the final episode of like The Office where it's like, oh, you have to like kind of remember when you're in like the good old days because like before you know it, like you pinch yourself and like they're over. Like you're in that right now. And do you feel sort of that? And like, is there anything that you like do? Like, is it journaling or whatever it might be to just kind of keep yourself reminded and chronicle, I guess, sort of like this is awesome?
Yeah, I do a lot of journaling. Like in my Coach T will have us. She'll make us like a running log every year, and I use that a lot as a diary and like a journal, and I'll put, really funny things. So like sometimes if we ever go back and look at like workouts from like 2018, 2017, like it's got some janky stuff written in it, and I'm like, I'm sorry I'm sending this to you, but now you know my real thoughts on that workout or whatever it is. And like recently I've been doing a lot in my notes app on the phone. I think everyone else does that, and I'll there will be different points where, I don't know, if something hard happened in life or something hard happened in a workout or something, I'll send a note that I've written to her so she kind of gets to see my thoughts. But yeah, I feel like I've tried to document a lot, and or when things are going hard, I'll go back and read times from like 2018 or 2019 when those were really hard times and read those, and I'll write down things that I learned. And so I'll read those and be like, okay, if I learned that then, maybe I need to relearn that now, or things like that. So I do try to keep as much as I can close all the time.
Coach, I guess I feel like you have like all these diaries at sort of your disposal. How do you balance like the time between the actual coaching and reading through everyone's sort of like journals and thoughts when you have like a whole team and then your pros?
Yeah, I think it's just time in the season. Right now I can be focused completely on the pros, and this is kind of the part of the season where they need more of that focus, and it shifts. But what helps is having that foundation and that connection already with them. So I'm not trying to develop trust with them like maybe I would be if I got a new pro. I already have that, and there's level of comfort where we're very transparent and very honest, and I do hold them accountable, not just on the track but in all aspects of life. What I love about Courtney's story as a coach is her trajectory wasn't freshman year, made it to nationals, wasn't all, the normal trajectory you would think that an Olympian, what it might look like. So like every girl out there that is in starting college or maybe just trying to figure out, like, success looks different for everyone. And if you just stay committed to your dreams, they can come true. You just have to keep showing up. And so, yeah, I love that that's the message that it implies. Like, this is not someone who was a 4-time All-American in the steeplechase, and just she really worked for it and earned it. And I think you're going to see that in this next phase as well.
Yeah.
I have good diaries. I have some good entries. I just want you to know, I'll write a book one day. Some good stories.
All right. You can share some more stories off air for sure, because I want to hear some of these. Mac, you might have to help me out here, because we did this segment with Mark Coogan about overrated, underrated on like certain like things in coaching right now. Trending things in coaching.
Okay.
And like, I want your sort of rapid fire sort of takes. If they're underrated, overrated, or you could say like properly rated. Like they're like, okay, I don't have like a harsh stance on either of them.
Olipop, underrated.
Yeah.
Okay. This is
into which camera, Mac?
Yeah. Where do we want?
Camera,
like,
right
I need Olipop to sponsor me. I am a regular consumer, one a day. Orange squeeze or lemon lime, favorite flavors. But yeah, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
This is underrated. All athletes, all runners should be drinking one of these every day.
It is the runner's soda. Like,
it is.
Yeah, it really is. That gut health through the roof at BYU. Because don't you keep like a whole fridge like worth?
I do. And you know, as some of you may or may not know, BYU has a strict policy on what beverages we can consume, and this is BYU approved. So yeah.
Love it. Alter G's.
Underrated. I like the boost though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Double threshold.
Properly rated.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
I'm a fan.
You are.
Yeah, but you're gonna get nothing else out of me about that.
Okay. All right. Lactate testing.
Overrated.
Overrated. Have you tried it at all with the pros?
No. I've been wanting to, but I'm just gonna stick with the overrated. So if I think it isn't needed, then it's not needed.
Altitude training, I feel like I know.
Oh, underrated.
Yeah.
Underrated.
As a former runner, those new
super shoes.
Oh, properly rated.
Yeah.
Properly rated.
Bicarb, like the little thing that everyone's taking nowadays.
All of that stuff, I feel like it's individually rated.
Really?
Yeah, individually rated.
Some people
swear by it.
And other people poop their pants in the race.
Yes,
Yeah.
that does happen actually.
It does. Yeah. Weight room.
Underrated.
Underrated. How often? How many days a week are your
Twice
pros?
a week.
Twice a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
soft surfaces.
Soft surfaces. Yeah.
Underrated.
Underrated.
We need them.
I love this. It's like exactly opposite of moving.
Yeah, Coogan was like explaining everything like for a whole minute, and I
Yeah.
love that you're just rapid
No,
fire.
I
hard
just like
stance
you
on
said it was rapid fire.
Yeah.
No, you're doing it incorrectly.
What else is there?
Fertile farm pills.
Band exercises.
I'm gonna start using those more, but I think those are properly rated.
Okay.
We do a lot of activation, which is the same thing that you can do with the bands, but
BU's track.
who
Careful, you meant it.
properly
Yeah.
rated.
Yeah, you want it.
We want to keep going there.
I think that was about
Okay.
it. All right. Final thing before we close it out is before we started rolling, I asked opening ceremony plans, and you're like, no, Paris is a business trip. So the next couple of weeks, I guess, what does it sort of look like? Any other races so far that popped up on the calendar? Like,
Yeah, we'll go to LA, the sound running meet, I
Okay.
think July 20th. So we'll go there. Unsure what.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, then we're just going to hit a good training block until Paris.
you also hit the 5K standard, I guess, this indoor season. Was there any sort of like, I guess the doubles wasn't possible at all at these trials, but is that like sort of like a down the road type of idea for you? Because you crushed that.
I mean, maybe. I'll never say never to
Yeah.
anything, but I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, I love the steeple.
Yeah.
That's like my passion. Like, it's more than just having success in it. It's like, I love the steeple. Like, I will finish workouts and say the most absurd things after the workouts because I just love it. Like, I'm like, that was so fun.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely have a lot of fun. And the 5K, I've had success in it as well. But it's for fun.
Well, see, this is what I love. When we ask sort of Rye Benjamin, it's like, you are one of the best in the country in the 400, and that's not even like your specialty event. like, why don't you just do the 400? And he's like, no,
Yeah.
because I feel like that would be giving up on the 400 hurdles. And he has like unfinished business, whether that's the gold medal or the world record. Like, he's committed to mastering his craft before moving on to anything else.
Yeah.
What would kind of the equivalent be like for you, sort of, when it comes to mastering the steeple before the idea of like jumping into anything else would be?
Yeah, I mean, I've made 2 world finals. That's great, but you know, I want to be a part of that wave of putting American women steeplers back on the map. I mean, they've been on the map, but like, let's be dominant again, and yeah, do things that have never been done for an American. I would love to chase those kinds of things.
Coach, you were nodding your head about like the Rye analogy. Like, that's just sort of like the perspective and mental focus an athlete should have.
Yeah, especially for an outdoor event. I think it would be nice to run what she ran in the 5K at an outdoor meet at some point and just continue to bring PRs. I think it helps. All of that stuff helps. That gave an immense amount of confidence to both of us. We walked away from Boston like, well, we're really strong. And so, yeah, just continuing to get better at all the other events and keeping the focus on the one she loves the most, which is the steeple.
How many fits are you packing for Paris?
There will be a lot.
Multiple? Like, is it just sort of like, all right.
I'm all out of fits this week. Like, I'm done. My suitcase is practically empty. I've worn them all. Yeah, there'll be some fun stuff, you know. I've got some pretty cool Nike gear that I'll throw together and just add some. We're going to buy matching luggage. That was
Really?
the matching Louis luggage
Wow.
in Paris. That's our
our theme.
Olympian gift to ourselves.
There's that prize money. That's where that's going to.
Well, whatever it takes.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to both of you. I'm super excited for what is ahead and in store for both of you in Paris, and we'll be there to cheer you all along the way.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for what you do for the sport, too.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah.
I appreciate it. All right.
No, I donated once upon
Yeah,
a time.
actually,
in the early years of CITIUS MAG, I Venmo'd
Yeah.
or did something because
I
I'm
think-
a supporter.
Yeah, I think-
Visibility for our sport is huge,
If
and
you
you've done a
haven't
great
canceled
job.
it on Patreon, you might be getting charged, I think, like $100 a month or whatever it is. You committed
It's fine,
something,
it's fine.
and it's been great. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna bring it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, well. Diljeet Taylor, investor in CITIUS MAG, is
Yeah.
like the little title that you should put on her title card here. But thank you guys so much for
Thank
doing
you.
Yeah,
this.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for